Hi. It's me, and I thought your most recent videos were hilarious despite you having a cold, or perhaps because of you having a cold and because of you having a puppy. Um, yes. Anything that is outside the control of the video maker is automatically funny. No matter what it is, it just adds to the video, so never worry about anything outside distractions detracting from the movie because they never ever do. Um, I was thinking that a lot of the stuff that I've been talking about so far has been very random and superficial and all sorts of stuff, but not really anything particularly substantial or intelligent, or I don't know. I don't know what you're expecting me to actually put in any of these videos, but um, one of the important things about me is that I am a writer. This is a very important part of my identity, and so I figured I would give you a little interim report on where I'm at with this and what I think of it, because I have started reading it with my little sister, actually. So I told you that she read about 40 pages online, and then I got the book and I was going to catch up on those 40 pages, but then I was on the subway, and the subway doesn't just conveniently, end your ride when you've read your allotted number of pages, and so I went and read ahead like a very bad sister. But then the next day, I left it at home and took a different book so that I wouldn't read ahead, so that I could catch up together with my little sister. We are now together, we are on page 54. Um, and we read to each other. She prefers me to read, but I make her read occasionally. Um, and we're having a good time. I think it is more of a book that is more fun to read out loud than it is necessarily to read it to yourself, because just there's not that much depth to a lot of it, but it's fun to read out loud to someone who doesn't care about the depth and just, cares about other things than the stuff that you care about. And what I was going to talk about is that while I like the book, and I'm definitely very glad, and I'm a very big fan of Chris Colfer, as you know, and I'm very glad that he decided to write a book and not to, you know, start a clothing line, or release a cologne or something, or I don't know. I would, you know, probably buy all of his clothes anyway if he had a clothing line, and I would just give them to people in my life and tell them, wear this, it's Chris Colfer's clothing line, and they would all hate me. But as for this book, so I can just say that it, pretty much it bears all the marks of a, relatively amateur writer. As in, one of the things that I notice is that he tends to make the easy choices in terms of visual stuff, and also I think that it probably has to do with the fact that he is coming from movies and TV and visual medium and screenplays. So with visual stuff, you're limited, obviously, to the most obvious and striking choices sometimes, because the point is to get it across to the audience and not to, be anything, terribly twisted or creative, just as long as you get your point across. You're supposed to capture it in the fewest number of images, and just like that. Anyhow, so an example of making an easy choice in this book is that the main characters are twins, and they've lost their father. Spoilers. They've lost their father, and to show that their mother, is grieving over his loss, he has her at one point go into her room and talk to the father's picture, which is a fairly trite and cliched choice to have to show grief over a specific person. Like, you could have them talk to an object, but not necessarily the most obvious object of the picture. Like, I might have them, talk to some, porcupine paperclip model thing, and in a movie that might not work very well because the audience will not know that these porcupine things were made by the father and has a sentimental value for whatever reason. But in a book, you can easily say that, and it will make the characters that much more real and that much more specific. And so that's just one kind of obvious choice. And then the other kind of obvious choice is to have, as soon as they, spoilers, fall into this magical fairy tale book that they've been given by their grandmother, they encounter a frog person who comes straight from the Department of Backstory and fills them in on like the entire history of the entire kingdom and all the many other kingdoms that are present on that very pretty map that I showed you before. This one. And so obviously exposition is, a form of telling and not showing, which, as most writing teachers will tell you, is kind of a cheap cop-out a lot of the time. And I think that there, could have been better ways for him to get across at least some of that information. And so I obviously am I've only read ahead up to about 100 pages in, so I can't tell you if I think that his choices get better, or if I think, that doesn't matter because the story is so good. But at this point, I would say that, it's about what I expected, because I am a fairly good gauge of, what I'm expecting from a book based on the first few pages. So when I can pretty much figure out the style and the, just like calibrate my expectations accordingly so that I'm not disappointed. Sometimes you read a book that opens really, really well and then it falls apart in the last, third of the book or so, and it's really disappointing. But this one so far, it's been pretty consistent all the way through, and I didn't expect anything great from it. And so I'm enjoying it, and it's a lot of fun to read to my sister. That's another thing about the dialogue in this book. I think that it also probably suffers from him being around TV and movies a lot, because I find that the dialogue is more engaging when I read it out loud and I inflect it with lots of, personality and whatever. And so it doesn't work as well on the page when you're reading it to yourself on a subway. It works better when it's being acted out, and that's understandable given his background, and he'll probably get better as, as his career and his writing goes on. This is his very, very first book, and he is very young and untrained, and so kudos to him for publishing it, and I look forward to finishing it, and I look forward to the rest of his books, if only because he's going to go on book tours, and I will get to meet him, possibly, for like 3 seconds, if that counts as meeting him. And yes, that is my substantial video blog of, I don't know, the week. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do substantial things with my vlogging ever again. I don't know. Let me know if you like this vlog, if you were interested at all in my perspective on these kinds of things. Anyhow, I will see you whenever I see you on the internet. Bye.